Most people romanticize the idea of starting from zero as if poverty or obscurity itself is a badge of honor. But the truth is far less glamorous. Starting from zero means you have nothing to protect, but also nothing to waste. It's not a story of miracles or luck. It's a series of sensible decisions made consistently while others chase illusions. The world doesn't owe you fairness, opportunity, or sympathy. It only responds to competence and discipline. The game isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about avoiding stupidity long enough to let reality reward you. If you want to rise from zero, stop seeking comfort, stop expecting shortcuts, and start building habits that compound like interest. Because the real power doesn't lie in a single brilliant move. It lies in the dull, consistent repetition of rational behavior when everyone else is busy being emotional. Discipline is the single greatest differentiator between people who merely dream and those who execute. Everyone loves the idea of success, but few are willing to endure the boredom and repetition that success demands. The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because they cannot control their impulses. They chase excitement over progress, validation over value, and comfort over character. When you're starting from zero, your biggest advantage isn't brilliance. It's the ability to do what others won't for as long as it takes. Discipline isn't about rigid routines or robotic efficiency. It's about clarity of purpose. It means understanding exactly what matters and refusing to be seduced by what doesn't. Every distraction, every unnecessary comfort, every emotional reaction is a tax on your potential. People who start with nothing can't afford that tax. You don't have a safety net, so your decisions must be smarter, not flashier. You can't impress anyone into success. You have to earn it through quiet, consistent execution. The early stages of building yourself are not glamorous. No one applauds you for saying no to a night out to study. No one celebrates your restraint when you choose to save instead of spend. Discipline is invisible progress. It's the grind behind the scenes while others are looking for shortcuts. But compound that behavior over years, and you'll see something almost no one else does: the unstoppable power of accumulated good decisions. Every successful person eventually realizes that freedom is purchased through discipline. It sounds paradoxical. How can restraint create freedom? But that's exactly how it works. And discipline builds structure, and structure breeds focus. When you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, your time becomes your ally, not your enemy. You're no longer reacting to life, you're directing it. That's the first real step out of zero, when you stop being tossed around by random events and start shaping your own trajectory. Discipline also protects you from the madness of the world. You'll see people chasing hype, trends, and overnight success stories. You'll see them get excited fast and crash even faster. And if you don't have discipline, you'll be pulled into the same chaos. You'll waste years following noise, while your focus and consistency could have built something real. The trick is not to outsmart everyone, it's to outlast them. When you commit to discipline, you trade temporary comfort for long-term confidence. You stop relying on luck because you've built a process that works. You stop fearing setbacks because your habits don't break when things go wrong. They adjust. You start to see the world as a system, not a series of random opportunities. You understand that winning doesn't come from one grand move, but from the cumulative effect of countless small, rational decisions made under control. In the end, discipline is not about rules. It's about respect. Respect for your time, your potential, and your future self. Most people never start because they keep waiting for motivation. But motivation is fickle. It disappears the moment things get hard. Discipline doesn't. Discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation dies. It's what separates the few who rise from zero from the many who stay there forever. Learning the basics that never change is one of the smartest things you can do when starting from zero. The world is obsessed with what's new technology, new trends, new hacks. but the fundamentals of success have barely changed in 100 years. The same principles that built great fortunes, strong character, and meaningful lives decades ago are still the ones that matter today. The problem is that people get bored with simplicity. They want to believe there's some secret formula or modern shortcut that will let them skip the hard parts. But the basics are the hard parts, and they're also the parts that actually work. When you have nothing, the best leverage you can build is competence. And competence is rooted in understanding the simple, unchanging rules of reality. Things like spending less than you earn, thinking before you act, learning before you speak, listening more than you talk, and being reliable when others aren't. These aren't flashy principles. They're boring, steady, and brutally effective. People who ignore them spend years trying to catch up to those who mastered them early. The basics compound quietly. You don't see their effects immediately, but over time, they create a foundation that can't be shaken by luck or chaos. Every generation thinks it's different. Every new wave of dreamers believes the old rules don't apply anymore, but the basics have survived every era for a reason. Human behavior doesn't evolve as fast as our technology. People still get greedy, still get lazy, still get distracted. And those who remember the fundamentals, patience, prudence, self-education, delayed gratification, end up owning the future while everyone else is chasing trends. The people who master the basics are never out of style because they operate on timeless logic, not fashion. Understanding the basics also protects you from overcomplication. Most people fail because they can't distinguish between what's essential and what's noise. They get lost in details that don't matter. They chase skills that look sophisticated but lack substance. When you focus on the basics, you develop judgment, and judgment is what prevents you from wasting time. It's what helps you say no to distractions disguised as opportunities. It's what allows you to see through nonsense, hype, and emotional manipulation. Starting from zero requires mental clarity, and clarity only comes when you stop overcomplicating simple truths. Think about it. Every great investor, builder, or thinker who started with nothing relied on basic principles, executed extremely well. They didn't know everything, but they understood something deeply. They knew how to learn faster than others, how to save when everyone else spent, how to focus when everyone else drifted. The basics gave them leverage because consistency beats novelty every time. When you do the simple things with precision, you build a foundation that can carry complexity later. But if you skip the basics and chase sophistication too early, everything collapses under its own weight. The basics also make you antifragile. The world can throw chaos at you. But if your understanding is rooted in timeless truths, you can adapt. You can survive downturns, failures, and rejections because your strength isn't built on trends. It's built on principles. When everyone around you is panicking because the rules changed, you'll stay calm because you know the real rules never did. The laws of effort, patience, and compound improvement never expire. There's a kind of quiet confidence that comes from mastering fundamentals. You stop being impressed by noise. You stop reacting to every new thing that promises speed without substance. You start recognizing patterns others miss because you've studied the core mechanics of how success actually works. The basics are your compass when the world gets confusing. They remind you that no matter how much changes, human nature doesn't. And if you can understand people, think clearly, and act rationally, you'll never truly start from zero again. Avoiding stupid mistakes before seeking brilliance is one of the most underrated but powerful approaches to success. People waste years chasing genius when avoiding obvious errors would have taken them further, faster, and with far less pain. Most failures don't come from lack of talent. They come from preventable stupidity. The difference between people who rise and people who collapse isn't brilliance. It's judgment. It's the ability to recognize traps, resist temptation, and stay out of situations where even a small misstep can destroy everything you've built. The easiest way to improve your life is to stop doing the things that make it worse. When you start from zero, you can't afford unnecessary mistakes. Every wrong move costs time, money, and momentum. You don't have a cushion, so you have to think twice before acting once. The world loves to glamorize risk takers, but most of the people who take reckless risks don't end up as legends. They end up as cautionary tales. It's not about being afraid of failure. It's about being smart enough to avoid stupid failure. There's a difference between intelligent risk and blind gambling, and most people never learn it. They think confidence replaces competence. It doesn't. The truly successful understand that surviving is the first victory. You can't compound progress if you don't stay in the game long enough to play another round. Avoiding stupidity begins with humility. The moment you think you're too smart to make dumb mistakes is the moment you're most likely to make one. Arrogance blinds you to reality. It makes you take shortcuts, ignore warnings, and underestimate complexity. The disciplined person assumes they're capable of error and builds systems to protect themselves from it. They double check. They seek second opinions. They prepare for worst-case scenarios. It's not because they lack confidence. It's because they respect uncertainty. The goal isn't to be fearless, it's to be prepared. Most of the great disasters in business, life, and relationships come from simple errors compounded by ego. People overextend themselves, trust the wrong person, chase quick money, or ignore small problems until they explode. Avoiding stupidity often means saying no more often than yes. It means resisting the urge to do something just for the thrill of appearing busy or successful. Most success stories are not tales of bold genius. They're stories of people who stayed rational when others lost their minds. They kept their heads when greed and emotion made everyone else blind. Avoiding stupidity also means understanding the cost of ignorance. When you don't know what you're doing, you're gambling with your future. You can't build stability on hope or luck. Learn enough about the game you're playing to avoid the most obvious pitfalls. If you're handling money, understand the basics of finance. If you're dealing with people, study trust and incentives. If you're building something, know the limits of your own competence. You don't have to know everything. You just have to avoid the handful of errors that destroy most people. There's immense power in subtraction. Most people try to add things, more plans, more goals, more complexity, when what they need is to remove the behaviors that drag them down. Stop spending what you don't have. Stop promising what you can't deliver. Stop associating with people who make you dumber. You don't have to chase brilliance if you can simply stop doing stupid things consistently. The results will take care of themselves. What makes this approach so effective is that it's durable. Brilliance fades, but good judgment compounds. It's not about being extraordinary. It's about being consistently rational. Every time you avoid a dumb mistake, you protect your future options. You preserve your ability to keep playing. That's how real progress happens, not by flashes of genius, but by avoiding the traps that consume everyone else who thought they were too clever to fall. Valuing time as your only real capital is one of the hardest lessons to truly internalize, especially when you're starting from zero. People talk about money as if it's the ultimate resource, but money can be regained after loss. Time never can. When you start with nothing, time is the one asset you still have an equal measure to everyone else. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck lies in how they treat that asset. Most waste it casually, trading it for short bursts of comfort, entertainment, or validation. The wise treat every hour as an investment because they know time is what converts potential into progress. When you have no money, connections, or status, your hours are your currency. Every decision you make is either compounding or decaying your future. Time doesn't announce its value loudly. It slips away quietly while you're distracted. The tragedy is that people protect their money more fiercely than their time. They'll argue over a few dollars, but give away hours to meaningless conversations, social scrolling, or trivial worries. That's the greatest irony of starting from zero. You can't afford to waste the one thing that's truly yours. Every day spent aimlessly is a day you'll never get back. Valuing time begins with awareness. You must measure it like a banker tracks capital, carefully, deliberately, without sentimentality. Ask yourself daily, where did my time go, and what did it produce? Most people don't even realize how much of their life is lost in drift. They confuse business with productivity, motion with progress. But being constantly active doesn't mean you're moving forward. It often means you're running in circles. Those who succeed understand the compounding effect of focus. An hour used intelligently today saves dozens tomorrow. They work with a sense of direction, not just effort. Time also demands respect through prioritization. You can't do everything, and you shouldn't try. The world constantly tempts you with distractions that feel urgent but aren't important. Learning to say no is an act of self-defense. It's not selfish to guard your time. It's necessary. Every yes to something meaningless is a silent no to something valuable. The discipline of choosing carefully where your time goes is what separates builders from drifters. People who value time don't chase every opportunity. They chase the right ones. Another aspect of valuing time is understanding its asymmetry. Not all hours are equal. Some hours have extraordinary leverage, others have none. The first few hours of your day, your periods of peak energy, your moments of focus, these are the golden hours that define your trajectory. Spend them creating, learning, or improving something that compounds. Don't trade them for low-value activities that provide short-term pleasure but long-term regret. Your most productive time shouldn't be sacrificed to trivial things or to people who drain your energy. Guard those moments as fiercely as if they were gold. The reason many never escape mediocrity is that they spend their best years waiting for the perfect plan, the right opportunity, the right mood. Time doesn't wait for readiness, it rewards motion. You'll never feel fully prepared, but time rewards those who start, adjust, and persist. The longer you hesitate, the smaller your remaining window becomes. Every wasted year is a debt you'll pay later with regret. People who understand time don't aim for perfection. They aim for momentum. Valuing time also changes how you view relationships and commitments. You begin to recognize that spending time with the wrong people is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. You start noticing how certain conversations, environments, or habits erode your focus. You stop tolerating them, not out of arrogance, but because you understand the cost. When you treat time as capital, you stop living reactively. You start designing your life like an investor allocating limited resources. That shift alone separates you from the majority because most never even realize that their time is the only real wealth they'll ever own. Building credibility through small, repeated wins is the foundation of long-term success. When you start from zero, you don't have reputation, influence, or trust. You can't buy credibility, and you can't demand it. It's earned slowly through consistent action that aligns with your words. Every small promise kept, every task done properly, every challenge faced with integrity becomes a deposit into your credibility account. People might not notice your early efforts, but over time, those quiet, consistent wins create something more powerful than any self-promotion trust. Trust is currency, and credibility is compound interest. Most people fail to understand that credibility isn't built by one grand achievement. It's built by the dull repetition of doing things right. The world is full of people who start strong and quit early. They overpromise, underdeliver, and wonder why no one believes in them. But credibility grows from doing exactly what you say you'll do, even when it's inconvenient, unnoticed, or unappreciated. It's not about impressing others. It's about proving to yourself that you can be relied upon. That's how you build internal strength. When your words carry weight because your actions have earned it, You no longer need to convince anyone of your value. Your record speaks for itself. Small wins matter more than big gestures because they're sustainable. Anyone can act disciplined for a day or work hard for a week, but only those who stay consistent create momentum that lasts. When you're starting from zero, momentum is everything. Small wins, finishing what you start, improving slightly every day, delivering on small responsibilities, create credibility that compounds faster than any flashy achievement. People trust consistency more than brilliance. They'd rather work with someone dependable than someone occasionally spectacular. The world rewards reliability over potential. Credibility also builds resilience. When people trust you, doors open. Opportunities appear that wouldn't have otherwise. You don't need to shout for attention because your work quietly speaks for you. Credibility protects you from noise, from gossip, from the fragility of reputation built on appearance instead of substance. It's slow to earn and fast to lose, which is why it demands constant maintenance. Every action you take either strengthens or weakens your credibility, and once it's damaged, rebuilding it takes years. Those who understand this treat their name like a brand, guarded, maintained, and earned daily. Another thing people forget is that credibility begins privately, not publicly. You can't fool yourself and still expect others to believe in you. When you break promises to yourself, skipping commitments, cutting corners, lying about effort, you weaken the foundation of your own confidence. The habit of keeping your word starts internally. If you say you'll do something, do it. If you can't, adjust and be honest about it. That's how integrity is formed. Once you've proven to yourself that your own words have meaning, you naturally extend that standard outward. People sense authenticity. They can tell when someone operates on principle rather than performance. The most powerful aspect of credibility is that it compounds invisibly. For months or years, it feels like no one is watching, like your work goes unnoticed. But credibility is slow, burning leverage. It builds quietly until one day it opens doors you didn't even know existed. People recommend you, trust you, invest in you, not because of a single act, but because of a pattern of reliability they've observed over time. That's the secret most overlooked. Credibility grows like compound interest, invisible at first, unstoppable later. Every small, repeated win is a signal to the world that you're dependable, capable, and consistent. You don't have to chase recognition. It finds you when your work accumulates quietly in the background. People will always trust the person who has a track record of following through more than the one who talks about ambition. When you start from zero, your credibility is your greatest marketing tool. It takes no money, no privilege, no connections, only discipline, integrity, and patience. Staying calm when others panic is one of the rarest and most valuable traits a person can develop. The world constantly swings between extremes, fear and greed, hope and despair, excitement and chaos. Most people get swept up in those emotions without realizing how much damage it does to their judgment. When panic hits, intelligence collapses. People make impulsive decisions, abandon logic, and trade long-term advantage for short-term relief. The ability to remain calm in the middle of noise is what separates those who endure from those who vanish. Calmness is not weakness, it's controlled strength. When you're starting from zero, staying calm becomes even more important. You don't have buffers, safety nets, or backup plans. Every setback feels heavier, every risk sharper. But reacting emotionally only makes things worse. Panic magnifies problems that could have been managed with patience. Most people fail not because the world defeated them, but because they lost control of themselves first. The discipline of staying calm doesn't mean ignoring pressure. It means understanding that emotion is a poor decision maker. You can't think clearly when your mind is hijacked by fear or ego. The calm person sees what others can't, simply because they're the only one still thinking rationally. Calmness is built through preparation. You can't stay composed in a storm if you've never thought about what to do when it hits. The reason most people panic is because they never anticipated difficulty. They believed things would always go smoothly. But if you expect turbulence, you're not surprised when it comes. You stay grounded because you plan for chaos. The world rewards those who stay functional under pressure. When everyone else is losing their minds, the person who can calmly assess the situation becomes indispensable. In every crisis, emotion spreads faster than truth. People exaggerate, speculate, and react impulsively. The calm person doesn't get dragged into that hysteria. They slow down, observe, and respond only when they understand. Calmness is intelligence in motion. It allows you to conserve energy while others burn out. You don't waste mental bandwidth on panic. You reserve it for solutions. You don't deny the problem. You simply refuse to let it dictate your behavior. That composure becomes your competitive advantage, especially when starting from zero. You may not have money, power, or connections, but if you can stay calm under pressure, you'll make better decisions than most people with more resources. Calmness also earns respect. People naturally trust those who don't lose control when things go wrong. They see you as dependable, as someone who brings order to confusion. Leadership isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about staying steady when others are drowning in emotion. Calm people create stability around them. They anchor teams, relationships, and opportunities. When you can project rationality in chaos, people follow you because you give them confidence they can't find in themselves. The key to staying calm is detachment, not in the sense of indifference, but in the ability to see situations objectively. You remind yourself that most problems are temporary, that emotion clouds solutions, and that time often solves what panic only complicates. Detachment doesn't make you cold, it makes you strategic. You act from understanding instead of impulse. You recognize that setbacks are part of the process, not signs of failure. Every crisis becomes a test of composure, and every time you pass that test, you become stronger for the next one. Calmness isn't inherited, it's trained. You build it through self-discipline, reflection, and repetition. You learn to pause before reacting, to breathe before speaking, to think before deciding. Over time, that restraint becomes instinct. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering it. The calm person doesn't feel less. They simply don't let feelings dictate their fate. When chaos strikes, they adapt. When fear spreads, they focus. When everyone else runs, they assess. That kind of composure turns every difficult situation into an opportunity for clarity, while panic only guarantees regret.